giving you the real from A to Z surrounding the Dallas Cowboys. News, updates, rumors, transactions, takes, and more. So strap up, Cowboys Nation, and start your day off with A to Z Sports. Live with Will Steele.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
Good morning, good people. Welcome to A to Z Sports Live. We are streaming live on YouTube, and of course, I am your host, Will Skywalker. Still, boom! You see it down there, baby. Them Cowboys, they win the brawl. It was a brawl. It was a tough, drag 'em out, slobber knocker out there at AT&T Stadium. The Cowboys hold off the Bucs 26-24. We are going to recap the upset and what was a wild finish to the game. In the midst of all that celebration, Jerry Jones continues to answer questions surrounding Mike McCarthy's status, and he had some things to say about that, gushing about one Mike McCarthy. But there is one Mike I don't think has any questions around what he got going on. Or he shouldn't, I should say. I got some standouts we'll talk about. We'll open up the phone lines. We'll talk to you on this Victory Monday. Another Victory Monday. 351-999-3787. We'll talk about draft status. We'll talk about a couple free agents, and we'll recap this whole thing from last night. Apologies for getting in here a little bit later than usual. As you guys can see, I had some technical difficulties, but we are here, Cowboys Nation. We are live, and I appreciate y'all for being here. Bomb Squad.
Bomb Squad!
I know a lot of y'all, the season's over, but not for those in that building. They are fighting their asses off to finish this thing strong. You heard Micah last night say, yeah, I believe, finishing strong can carry this over into next season. Well, we'll see. We'll see how that goes, because, you would like to have started strong and then finish strong heading into the playoffs. But I have in the title here, is Jerry Jones inching closer to bringing back one Mike McCarthy? I think it's a legitimate topic of conversation that I want to have with you guys, if you will. So let's rap a little bit about that before we get into my standouts. Last night, and if you wanted to put first half standouts, McCarthy I thought should have been in there, because in the first half, and we'll get to a couple of these players, I thought he dialed it up very well. We talked about this in the post-game show. McCarthy and Zimmer, to me, outcoached Todd Bowles and Liam Cohen, specifically in that first half. It was a really, really good first half offensively, mostly through the air, but I thought the play calling was really good. The game plan was really good, and they came out strong. So it was some momentum was gaining for McCarthy. And the second half happened. It wasn't a great second half, but the defense stepped up and was able to close this thing out. With the Cowboys going on this bit of a run, they talked to Jerry Jones yesterday, or after the game. And this shot of Jerry Jones and Mike McCarthy and this is a video, but this is a still shot from the video. Jerry walks up to Mike, talking to him, man to man, puts his hand, gives him a tap on the shoulder and whatnot. And he goes out of his way in the walk-offs or what have you to praise Mike McCarthy. I think now more than ever, especially more than when they were 3-7 and playing terrible football, now more than ever, this guy feels like he's returning, right? Now, and I'm going to do this myself. I'm going to put my issues I have with Mike McCarthy aside real quick, because I still don't think he's the guy to get you over the hump here. What I will do is give McCarthy a ton of respect for having these guys out there fighting week in, week out, try to close this thing out strong, no matter who the opponent is, right? And this was a good opponent, but previously there wasn't some great opponents. whether it's here or elsewhere, I think he is at the very least showcasing to the NFL that, look, I don't personally think Mike McCarthy is a great offensive guy, but maybe he can be a guy to help out a program to get back on track, build a because I think he does build programs. I just don't think he has a program good enough to overcome some other things here in Dallas. But maybe somewhere else. Maybe it'll help somewhere else. But it's looking like it's going to be here. Now, Jerry praised him, went out his way to praise him, but then he kind of said, look, I'm not making any decisions on one Mike McCarthy right now. I'm not going to give you guys anything. Part of me was like, I think half of that is legitimate, right? Like, hey, we want the season to end. We want to bring him in, exit interviews, take a look at the whole thing. And then the other part of me was like, this is just Jerry trying to drag this thing out, because why make a decision now? He may know the decision. He may be, want to bring back Mike McCarthy. Why would he do it now when he can drag this thing all the way through the regular season, get about a week, 2, 3, whatever it is in the off season, then make the headline splash of, hey, we're running this thing back with Mike McCarthy to stay in the airwaves? Because at the end of the day, as Jerry likes to say, I like to keep him talking about me. I like to keep, and when it comes to this, like when it comes to football, I don't think he really thinks things through in that sense. But when it comes to propaganda, marketing, things like that, 100%. I don't think he's saying or doing anything without a thought to it. So while, yes, he's not committed to bringing him back publicly, he may be privately. He will never say it publicly until it's time. I do think they're going to drag this thing out and then eventually bring him back. And if they finish this thing 4-2 or whatever it is to end the season, I believe they're 4-1 right now in the last 5 after losing the first 2 when Dak went down. Now they've won 4 or 5. So say they beat Washington. They might be Philly. I was talking about this after the show yesterday. There may be no Jalen Hurts next week. That's going to be an interesting game. So say they win one more game. They'll be 8-9 or 7-10. Jerry's going to look at this thing and say, oh, well, if we had Dak and if we had D-Law and if we had Cooks early and if we had better this, better. I can really see him legitimately saying, hey, we would be a Super Bowl team had all this other stuff happened or not have happened, and we're going to run this thing back with Mike McCarthy. I can see it happening. I told you guys the other week, I've already given up on the idea of another coach coming in here, but I'm trying to put that to the side real quick and just think about how these guys think and what is happening to end this season. Mike should get some credit for this team fighting. 100%. Now, a lot of people can say, well, Sky, they're professionals. They should go out there and they should fight anyway. They should play. They should run to the wall anyway, right? But Jordan Lewis, who we'll get to in a second. Jay Lou talked about on Sunday Night Football, the post-game show, yeah, we're out there obviously playing for each other as brothers, but we're playing for Mike. I think these guys understand that lame duck season, bad start. They like Mike McCarthy. He's a player's coach, right? This is a guy that is not really a hard-ass type of coach. They like him. They want to keep him around because it's comfortable, right? Jay Lou saying that, one of the leaders who better be back here next year, I think that's going to hold a lot of weight. Dak saying it now, Micah saying it, Jay Lou saying it. It's going to hold a lot of weight on top of getting these victories to Jerry Jones. Plus the comfortability, right? Comfortable with Mike. I know I'm not going to have to quabble and fight with Mike. I know I'm not have to get into any off-air things with Mike. It is all adding up. And I've already braced myself. And I said this to my guy, Mel. I said, now it's about me personally. I don't know how y'all want to do it. Me personally, trying to figure out how to help him out. Right? How are we going to help him? Besides just getting guys back. And that's what really makes me feel uneasy about the whole situation. Will they go into this offseason saying we don't need to do anything. We finished 7-10 when we weren't supposed to. We finished 8-9 when we weren't supposed to. And we'll get guys back. Everything's great. I hope they don't make that mistake. That's all I'm going to say is I hope they don't make that mistake. And if they do bring him back, they don't have to push all the chips in. That's not what they do. But I mean, make a big bet. Check raise. Talk about poker. You ain't got to be passive or check, fold. You can see bet sometimes. That's all I'm asking. And I'll stop talking in poker terms because you might be like, what the hell are you talking about, Scott? What I mean is they don't have to go all in the offseason. They won't go all in. But they cannot use the end of this season as a banner to hang and say, man, look at this. Look what we did. We don't have to do anything. We'll just get back our guys and we'll be straight. Don't do it. Don't fall for the cheese, Cowboys Nation. So that's kind of my take on the Mike McCarthy, Jerry Jones situation. But old Mike Zimmer. Man, I've already said it a bunch of times to you guys that I think he's the guy that has stood above every other of the big three coaches, right? When I say big three, offensive play caller, Mike McCarthy, defensive coordinator, Mike Zimmer, special teams coach, Bones Fossil. Those are the big three. You could argue Mike Solari too, right? You could put big four and put Solari in there. But then with how the run game has gotten better over the last month, Solari has kind of played his way up there. Still would like to move forward. But Mike Zimmer, we mentioned this going into this game, Liam Cohen versus Mike Zimmer. We mentioned this in the pregame show, Liam Cohen versus Mike Zimmer. This was an opportunity for Mike Zimmer to put a stamp on this season to say, look, I don't know what you're going to do with McCarthy. Personally, I don't care. I've earned the right to return and run this thing back with this defense and go get me my guys, right? Go get me my guys. The Bucs are coming in this thing hot. The offense was coming in hot. They just dropped 40 burger on the number one scoring defense, and Mike McCarthy is out there with Nick Vigil and a rookie linebacker making things tough for the Bucs. Really tough. I mean, early too. I often talk about Liam Cohen being one of the best first 15 guys. I saw in the first 5 to 10 plays Baker Mayfield, and we're going to look at the film obviously after the day. Baker Mayfield was in a blender. He was legitimately in a blender, trying to figure out where to go, scattering around. The pressure was dialed up. I mean, I don't think I've seen Zimmer turn the heat up more all season than in this game. And you want to talk about playing hard for guys. Maybe because Mike's the head coach and he's on the lame duck. If they play hard for Mike, then what do you call it for Zimmer? I'm sorry, for McCarthy. What do you call it for Mike Zimmer? We'd love to ask that question. Hey, I hear you guys talk a lot about playing hard for Mike McCarthy, but the way you are playing defense over this last stretch, are you guys playing hard for Mike Zimmer too? Because this is some really good, inspired football happening on that side of the ball with a ton of injuries. So if they're going to run this thing back with McCarthy, without a shadow of a doubt, they obviously have to bring back Mike Zimmer, because I think Mike Zimmer has helped saving Mike McCarthy's job. In a way, kind of how, I don't think he was ever going to get fired, but a few years ago, the same topic of conversation was happening with Dan Quinn, right? It was, hey, bring back Dan Quinn, or Dan Quinn is saving McCarthy. That whole thing back in 21, 22 when it was going on, right? I'd argue Zim is doing something similar on that side of the ball to end this season. Because, look, we found out going into the game, the Cowboys are finito. They're done. The fat lady has sung. There is no more playoffs. We can stop talking about it. Cowboys will finish with likely, let's take a look at it, a top 15 pick. And you guys know what I've said all along. I think the Cowboys are going to finish with a top 15 pick. And I don't think it's that serious. But I'll ask you guys, before we get into the standouts, another week, another dub, another Cowboys hanging in that, you see it right here, 7-8, 7-8, 7-8, 7-8. This is probably going to jumble up over the next 3 weeks or 2 weeks. What are your feelings on the Cowboys draft status. You guys know mines. If you're new here, I've said it for a long time. I really didn't care if they finished 5th or 15th. It's more about what they do with the coaching decision and what they do in free agency or offseason acquisitions than the actual draft status, in my opinion. And to boot, I think they can still get a really good player anywhere between 11 and 15, especially if you're praising yourself on being a draft team. You pick 11 to 15. There are plenty of good players that'll still be there. So I really don't want to hear that. And if you want to get a guy that's in 8, 9, 10 range, trade up if it's that serious. So that's my thoughts about this whole draft thing. But where are you guys at with the Cowboys continue to go down? I know a lot of people are upset, right? Like, we just keep winning, messing up draft status. I want a higher pick. We're playing ourselves out of this guy and that guy. Some of those guys that the Cowboys are talking about, or Cowboy fans are talking about, I think, and look, we're very early in this whole thing. I think we'll still be in the range. It's just a matter of, does Dallas want them that bad to make a move, or do they wait and let one of those guys fall, a la CeeDee Lamb? I'm with you, Professor O. Professor O said, I feel confident that I can cook in that draft range. Facts. I feel the same way. If I can't get a guy at between 11 and 15, am I really a good drafting team? Do this every year, right? Oh my God, we don't have not Cowboy fans, but people around the league. Unless you're looking for a franchise quarterback, the top 5 for teams that are trying to compete legitimately, right? It doesn't really matter, in my opinion. Yeah, there's guys up there, Aiden Hutchinson and things like that. But how do other competing teams, including the Cowboys, right? How are they able to survive and get guys outside the top 10 that turn into all pros? The draft doesn't stop after 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm not really getting all up in arms over the Cowboys falling out of the top 10, 8, 7, whatever it was earlier in the season. It does not matter to me. What matters to me is the decision they're going to make as soon as the season's over, and what they do after that before the draft. That matters way more than whatever rookie they decide to bring in the first round, second round, third round, whatever it may be. Way more. Perfect spot for Emeka, says King Pablo. Rohit said he with Professor O. Tell him. Better draft order than those three 12 and 5 seasons, says Michael H. I'm guessing you mean 12 and 5. Yeah, they'll be about 10 picks higher than that. The same area they got CeeDee and Micah. Facts, right? Yeah. Dre said, am I sweating the draft position as much? I like seeing the guys playing hard. I do too. What matters to me is evaluating the guys currently on this team to see who should return. They'll do that. They'll 100% do that. Appreciate you, AZ. I don't so much worry about that. And we're going to break it all down, Dre, after the season. I think they'll bring back most of the guys we're going to be talking about. Now, there will be some that may play their way out. But the Cowboys like to take care of their own. So there's going to be a good group of those dudes that return. And you need some of those guys to return. 100%. The Cowboys can't do what happened last year, although Stephen Jones is talking about, hey, 2025 could look like 2024. But they can't let 6, 7, 8 starters walk and then replace them with undrafted guys and rookies and expect this thing to just be all Skittles and rainbows and we're going to the Super Bowl. Don't think that's how that works. I think they need to bring back a few of those dudes, but they also need to try to upgrade at certain spots in free agency. You know? That's true, Tino. They don't spend. But they have to. They have to, right? Like, if they don't do something, I'm not saying, like I said, they don't got to push all the chips, just check raise. If they do literally what they did last year, who cares about the 15th overall pick, the 10th overall pick? Do you honestly think that person is going to be the hump player? Sorry, I don't. So now we've got to hope for another lightning in a bottle situation. But That's kind of my thoughts on that whole thing. Let's get back to this game. Let's talk about some of these standouts from last night and what was an extremely entertaining game from start to finish. I feel like you have to put CeeDee Lamb and Cooper Rush together, specifically in that first half. But I got to start off with CeeDee Lamb. This isn't in order or anything. This is just 5 guys. When I do these type of activities, I like to include a handful, and then we'll talk about some of the guys you believe also stood out, because I got some names that aren't on here as well. But CeeDee Lamb, there was a shouts out to Underdog Fantasy over under 1.5 receptions in the first quarter. I said, if y'all don't smash that thing, what are we talking about here? CeeDee Lamb's going to get 2 receptions in the first drive. He got 3. That was an easy one, man. CeeDee Lamb finished with 7 receptions, 8 targets, 105 yards. Really all of that in the first half as he continued to battle through that damn shoulder injury. He is just so he is showing his toughness. We can get on him about the antics of and when he's not getting the ball and whatnot. But one thing you cannot question is, with CeeDee Lamb this year, is his toughness. He's approached that DeAndre Hopkins aura or era, whatever you want to call it. This guy, what the hell are you talking about? D-Hop, first of all, D-Hop is his guy, his favorite player. I think he wanted 10 because of D-Hop. And he kind of looks like D-Hop. In this game, y'all, I'm not the game. Anyway, what I mean by the D-Hop aura and era is DeAndre Hopkins for like a decade was quarterback proof. Well, coach proof too. Didn't matter who was out there. Put the ball in his area, in his vicinity. He's going to make that play look good. He's going to come down with it and make a play. And he continues to do that. No matter who the quarterback is, CeeDee Lamb is showing up and showing out. But then he got hurt, right? Injury happened, and he kind of was in and out in that second half, gutting through it, only had 1 reception. But I don't think that was bad enough to not include him in the standouts. And the same thing with Cooper Rush. I think his first half alone, he has to be on here. I don't know that I've seen him play better first half in his life. He was dialed in out there. He was dealing. He finished that first half at about 220 yards and a touchdown to Tolbert, and was just in total command of that offense. And we knew that Todd Bowles was going to dial up the blitz. And he did. He dialed it up, and it never got to him. Never got, in that first half at least, it never got to him. And one of the things we talked about in the pregame show was, hey, man, McCarthy's going to have to help out Cooper Rush in this one, right? Like you've got to, he has to dial it up too. And I thought in that first half, he was dialing it up. There was a lot more shifts, not necessarily, at snap motion types, but shifts, right? We're going to start here and get here. We often see the 49ers do that a lot. A lot of short game, getting the ball out fast. That's Cooper Rush's game. And then set it up with some shot calls. There was actual, hey, we're going to set this thing up, and we'll look at it tomorrow on film, but none bigger, I should say, than we'll start off the drive with the Kevontae Turpin handoff with him in the backfield. Oh, what do you know? Get Kevontae Turpin the ball more in the backfield. Okay. Start off with the handoff, and then keep Turpin right out there. Play action, over out, wide open. Brandon Cooks, huge play. 2 plays, you're already down to the red zone. A couple plays later, bow, touchdown. Can't wait to go look at it from a X's and O's standpoint. The first half, I thought it was an excellent first half. But I'm putting him on here, and Lamb for that matter, because the first half. The second half, well, if you didn't see what happened, it just wasn't the same. 72 yards the Cowboys had in the second half on 5 possessions and only 3 points. It just stopped. And as much as I want to watch what happened in the first half and talk about it, I also want to see, what happened X and O wise in the second half. Because I know CeeDee Lamb went out, right? And that plays a big deal. In that third quarter, he barely was in the game. Fourth quarter, he came back in. But that was a perfect time to get a little bit more creative with Kevontae Turpin, Brandon Cooks, Jake Ferguson, Rico Dowdle out the backfield. That was a really good time to, dial it up even more per se. But the Bucs, to their credit, came out and really shut everything down. They want field goal, punt in the second half. And we've seen that a lot over the last month and a half, where these second halves are really wonky. A lot of 3 and outs or 5 and outs. And they started off decent, right? Field goal, and the Cowboys get a stop on the other side. And in the Bengals game, same thing. Started off touchdown, and then at the crib, the last 2 games just dried up there. So I can't wait to go look at that as well. And then offensively, to put a wrap on this whole thing for the offense, and then we'll get in the chat and talk to y'all. Brandon Aubrey. I mean, the ultimate X factor for the Cowboys to me. You cross the 50-yard line, and it is an automatic 3 points. It's automatic. I can't really express how crazy that is. Years ago, okay, you got to get to the 30, 35 is like, hey, man, long field goal. 40 was like, unless you got Vanderjagt in his prime, Tucker in his prime, like, nah, we're not doing that. You get to the 48. You're like, oh, yeah, we in Brandon Aubrey range. Come on, baby, let's do this. He was huge last night. Brandon Aubrey, you could argue, if he doesn't connect on those, not even argue, I mean, the score tells you there. If he doesn't connect on those, I think he had 4 field goals, but 3 50-yarders, they don't win this game. They don't. In fact, he broke the single season record for most 50-yard plus field goals made, around 12 or 13. I can't remember the exact number, but I joked about this earlier in the year. I don't think it's a joke anymore. This is the best field goal kicker in the National Football League. Justin Tucker is kind of approaching, it seems like, the Mason Crosby era, where, Vinatieri, all-time great type. Crosby, I don't know, but Vinatieri, all-time great type, but towards the end of his career, it's over, right? The mantle has been passed. This guy is unbelievable. Unbelievable. Big-time weapon for the Cowboys. So, offensively, I think those 3, and again, no offensive line yet. We got to go back and we'll go look at the film. Those 3 to me stood out the most between the first halves for Cooper Rush and CeeDee Lamb, and then Brandon Aubrey just, I don't want to say icing the game, but doing enough just to keep the Cowboys in a 2-possession lead for most of the game, so that the Bucs couldn't just score a touchdown, get the lead, right? Oh, we got to talk about that defense though. But offensively, anybody else stick out to you guys from first watch? Now, some of you guys may have, the film just dropped on NFL Pro. I mean, I was actually shocked it wasn't up at the normal time, but it kind of dropped like an hour ago. But anybody else stand out to you guys offensively? This wasn't one of those. Another reason why I think you can put Cooper Rush on this list in the first half. This wasn't a Rico Dowdle game, right? Like, Rico was shut down. That streak of 300 yards, it didn't even come close. He had like 12 yards or something in this game. Maybe Tolbert, but he had, the touchdown, couple receptions. Shouts out to Brian Flournoy, showing up with a couple big catches, like literally big gains. I think he had 3 receptions, 40 yards, something like that. We got a Flournoy sighting, which makes you go, because they traded the 4th round pick for Jonathan Mingo, and I don't think bruh's caught a pass in like a month. So Flournoy's getting a nod. Turpin can be a guy, obviously, with a couple of those. He didn't have a big night, but he got the drive started early in the game, a couple handoffs, just kind of playing his role. Pass protection definitely seemed to be really good. Didn't feel like a whole lot of pressure until the second half of the game, but the early in the game, I'm gonna go back and look. I didn't see a whole lot. That's why I have, I talked about Mike McCarthy being a guy, if you wanted to throw a coach on here that's not named Mike Zimmer. The first half, I thought he called an excellent game. Second half, things happen. We'll go take a look at it. We'll take a look at it. Now, on the other side of the ball, I mean, it is really tough to just have 2 guys here. You know what I'm saying? It's really hard. But going into this game, I said we're going to need Micah Parsons to really make his presence felt. It's a hot Bucs offense. His offensive line is really good. He's got to be a guy that sets the tone up front. Well, finished the game with 6 pressures, 5 tackles, a sack, and a forced fumble that almost was recovered by Nick Vigil, but knocked him back to a hilarious 3rd and 40. Safe to say, he made his presence felt. And you could argue, I mean, this is every game. No, they don't call it. I don't know what it is. It just, how do you not witness him being held multiple times, literally in a series, let alone a game? And I don't think he got a holding call. He might have got one. I don't know. But it was times I'm just sitting here like, oh, okay, no holding. Bet. Same thing with Osa. I think Osa got held a few times in this game and no call, but whatever. Needed him to have make a stamp, make his presence felt, and he did that. The front 7 was all over Baker Mayfield in this game. And a lot of that was dialing up the blitzes with the DBs and the linebackers and guys like Nick Vigil and Donovan Wilson. We talked about this going into this game, Cowboys Nation. I couldn't remember what you guys said in the chat because I was talking. But don't look now, man. Quietly, whether you want to call it the competition or whatnot, but for like the last 7 weeks or so, maybe 6 or 7 weeks, as bad as the safeties played earlier in the season, it has been as good later in the season. And I think there's some of what Mike Zimmer said last week when we pulled up the audio where, yeah, you know, basically learning how to use some of these guys. Mind you, you don't know these dudes. He just got them and figuring things out and playing some of these guys to their strengths. Getting Donovan Wilson playing with things in front of him, blitzing him more. I've been asking for Dono to be that blitzer guy under Zim from day one. I thought it was going to be from day one, but he has ratcheted up the blitzes. Another sack by Donovan Wilson. Thought it was a sack fumble. Some big hits. And this is the thing, right? Keeping things in front of him. Dono, it's not about Dono playing forward, even in coverage. It's about Dono playing backwards. So if Dono's playing forward, things are in front of him, he can lay the wood. He can make plays on the ball. He can force fumbles. He can sack. He can make big hits on running backs. He's playing some excellent ball lately. And I know a lot of people are going to want to get rid of him and Malik Hooker in the offseason. And look, we can have a conversation if we're going to go and upgrade the position, right? Talk about that a lot. There's not many of these guys that are proof in that way. But there's something to say for him and this defense and some of these guys that were much maligned earlier playing a lot better now. But one guy that has been steady Eddie, that has been rock steady rocking all night. Jordan Lewis, ladies and gentlemen. We talk about Heisman moments in college. Come on, y'all. J. Lou had his all-pro moment with a sick interception. Here's Mike Tirico on the call.
Marking at the 46. It's a gain of 27. Mayfield now. Shot down the field. It's McMillan. He got it. No, picked off by Lewis. Lewis fought him forward and took it away.
Mike Tirico was terrific last night, y'all. Sidebar. Is he the best right now? I like Kevin. Is it Kevin Burke? Is it Burkhardt? Burkhead? I can't remember his last name. I think he's fantastic too. A ton of energy in his delivery. I'm still getting used to him and Tom. I liked him and Greg Olsen better, but Mike Tirico was fantastic last night. He the best, man. Anyway, Jordan Lewis might be the best slot corner in the game right now. I tell you that much. A little biased, not gonna lie to you. Cowboy fan, Jordan Lewis fan. I'm not studying all the slot corners, right? Trent McDuffie has something to say about it as well, right? Trent McDuffie has probably had to reign as best slot guy last year. But J. Lou just watching him all year. I know there was a miscommunication later in that game between him and DeRon Bland. You want to put that on Jordan Lewis, that's fine, right? Actually, it was the very next possession. But he has been lights out. I mean, he's always been one of the most physical slot corners to come up and play the run. Last year, he was your best run defender, especially later on in the season. I mean, he fills the gap like he's a linebacker. Playing with a bionic arm on and calling him RoboCop. And now he's making ridiculous sick interceptions. He made last year, if you remember, early in the San Francisco game, he made a hell of a play on Christian McCaffrey to take the ball away. Very similar, but from a fumble standpoint. Not a whole lot of turnovers this year, but a lot of kind of just shutting down guys and being physical and being one of the veteran leaders on that defense. We talked about it a lot this season, but it's a no-brainer to bring Jordan Lewis back. And I thought it was a no-brainer to let J. Lou be that guy going into the season. A lot of people were out on J. Lou, and I'm just like, hey, man, you got to look at him fighting back from that foot injury. And a lot of people weren't happy with his play, but when you really sat and you watched him, like, I don't know, man, J. Lou's playing some ball, man. He's playing some ball, especially coming off of the foot injury that could have ended his career. And back when Zimmer was hired, and we listened to a lot of the players. A lot of players were very high on the scheme in and of itself. Hooker talked about it. Micah talked about it. I had the audio or the video, but I got rid of it in my role here. But J. Lou said something along the lines of, I'm going to play my best ball in this system. And I said, I believe it. Because Zim, much like a Spags, much like a Vic Fangio, when it comes to quality veterans, those guys usually play good ball in his scheme. And J. Lou is one of the smartest defensive backs probably in that room. Been around, played in a lot of different systems, and has had success in a lot of different systems. But when you talk about a scheme that is predicated on a lot of zone, blitzing guys, J. Lou can blitz off that slot, playing with things in front of you, J. Lou can do that with the best of them. In fact, when they were calling him the ball god early in his career, it was a lot of the playing with things in front of him and making plays on the ball. So fantastic game by Jordan Lewis, man, who just continues to show his worth. It sucks that it comes in a season where, you know, we can't get into the playoffs and see it come to fruition, or not see it, you know, play out in a playoff atmosphere. But I think he's a playoff type of player. Yes, I know last year the whole entire secondary got their ass whooped. But I think a little bit of that was more to do just getting straight up out-coached and then outplayed. I would have liked to see this coming together version of this defense in a playoff atmosphere, man. I really would have, because I think Mike Zimmer has these guys playing some of the best ball I've seen them play. Now that includes, you know, when Dan Quinn was here and they were getting four turnovers a game. And here's why I'm going to put it right there with with Quinn. Y'all guys can correct me if I'm wrong here, but there was a lot of times when you were watching it and you were like, is that sustainable? Right? It's getting 3 turnovers every damn game. Sustainable. Now we beat up on a lot of bad teams. That happens. We're beating up on bad teams now. But I don't want that to, and that wasn't a bad team though. I don't want that to deter you from how well they played for the most part against a Bengals team. How well they played against that Bucs team last night. How well in the first half they were playing against the Falcons, the Eagles, and the Texans. All first halves, the defense was fighting their ass off. Were they giving up some plays? Yeah, the run game, sure. But shorthanded, not really playing with a lot of his guys going into when I say his guys, his types going into the season. I praised Mike Zimmer for those first halves. Rivaled a little bit in the second half early, but then you get a little, the schedule eases up a little bit. You're able to get some wins under your belt against some bad teams, but that builds confidence, right? So now when I go up against a top offense or passing offense and say a Joe Burrow, they don't light me on fire until the end of the game. We pretty much got the stops we needed. It wasn't their fault. The offense, sputtered, and then the special team sputtered. And the same thing with the Bucs. The Bucs that's a fantastic offense. We talked about the best dual threat offense you're going to go up against since the Detroit Lions. Didn't do much on the ground. I know you'll see Bucky Irvin have a 4.8 yards per carry, whatever it was. But for the most part, they weren't gashing you on the ground. Baker Mayfield was in a blender. Zimmer won that battle. And to me, if you were still thinking, which I don't think you should be, but if you still had reservations on Mike Zimmer, I think you should not have those anymore. How we feeling? Well, I'll ask. How we feeling on Mike Zimmer returning next year? I will say this. I'm still of the thought process. If a new head coach comes in here, you let that head coach, decide. But boy, I'd make a strong case to keep Mike Zimmer if there is a new head coach. Mind you, that's with the thought process of a new head coach. I don't think a new head coach is coming. But I would 100% bring back Mike. 100%. Yeah, Javon. He said, love how Maris stepped in there. Yeah, Maris a guy, man. I'm excited to see Maris Leofow. If they don't bring back Eric Kendricks, take over the green dot. I think we talked about it in rating the draft. He's just a green dot guy, man. Come on. Mel said, that's all I would say. JV said, I bring back Zimmer. AZ, he won't be bad to keep. Not at all. Not at all. The Bucs, Dre said the Bucs started moving fast, trying to come back. And that's the thing I texted to Jesse during the game. Like, this happens usually with the defense. We've seen it over, even in this stretch, where they'll play a hell of a game, but they still aren't that shut down, especially without all their guys. They aren't that shut you down all game defense. They're not going to be a defense that finishes holding teams to 16 points per game. They're not that deep. So there are going to be times throughout the game where a team said, we're just going to hurry this thing up. You saw it. They went in a super hurry up mode. Micah going 110%. His battery's going down. They have to sub in other guys in and out, and they score touchdown or what have you from time to time. But I don't think that takes away from how well they played overall. I don't. It's going to happen. When you don't have a defense that is one whole or even close to it, be one of those type of defenses, which I don't know if there's many in this league anymore, you're going to get scored on a good bit. I'll bring him back. He was, bro. He was out there tied. In that fourth quarter, in that specific drive, Vigil plays over Clark is what? Clark's done. We knew when Clark sat as a healthy scratch, you knew that was over. That was a wrap. So Nick Vigil playing over Damone Clark is not a surprise to me, especially when Nick Vigil is a Paul Gunther guy. Paul Gunther, I don't think Nick Vigil played under Zim, but he played under Paul Gunther, and Paul Gunther is the real linebackers coach. And Damone Clark, I don't think Damone Clark was a guy that Paul Gunther would have brought in here. So that's not a big surprise to me at all. Mark said the O couldn't do much without CD. Yeah, that, if we go back to when I was talking about, Rush and Lamb and McCarthy, I would have loved to see McCarthy get a little bit more creative in getting guys like Cooks and Turpin and Ferguson and Rico out the backfield. I would have loved to see that. See him getting those guys involved when Lamb was dealing with what he was dealing with. Yeah, Lawson putting Tristan Worfs, and I know Tristan Worfs' ankle twisted before Lawson got on him, but I don't care. It was visually pleasing to see him pancake Tristan Wirfs, and he continues to add on to his highlight reel this last half of the season for a guy to return as well. He's another one of those veteran guys that we talked about a number of weeks ago. Is he playing his way back onto this team, or at least the conversation of returning? you're going to have to sign some of these veterans back. Unless he goes berserk in the last 2 games. I don't think he's playing himself. He's pricing himself out of Dallas per se. I don't think that. But you have to think this way. There's always that thought process in the back of your head where you're like, oh no, man. Stephen Jones has a line that he will not cross. And if Carl Lawson can get to a team that's willing to pay him, $3.5, $4 million, even if it's a 1-year deal, I just feel like Stephen will say, you know what? Appreciate you, Carl. Glad you were able to kind of revive your career per se after an injury-riddled 23. But, hey, Will, go find me another Carl Lawson. I'm not sure that's necessarily a bad idea, but I think that's what will happen, if you will. Thought that was toxic. Tom is Toxic Captain America. What's up with you, Toxic? Let's get to a couple super chats here, Cowboys Nation. Shouts out to Let's Talk with Andrew Love. Let's Talk with Andrew Love sounds like and I'm pretty sure it is a podcast, but like a late night talk show host right there. If I see Vita Vea coming at me full speed, I'm dropping instantly. Did you see Vita Vea? I put this on Twitter. What a play. This guy's a freaking maniac. On the biggest third down of the game for the Bucks, they don't rush Vita Vea. This dude drops back in coverage. Cooper Rush throws it out to Jake Ferguson, short of the sticks, and thinking, all right, he's going to get tackled. Jake is Jake. Makes the first guy miss. I'm like, he finna get this first down. I didn't care that another defender was coming. Like, I've seen Jake kind of, muscle through. But, bro, when that defender is 6'4", 350 pounds, you ain't muscling through a damn thing. Vita Vea hit Ferg so hard, Ferg got up like, what the? I know that wasn't a linebacker. It wasn't. It was a goddamn train coming right at your ass. It stopped him short of the sticks. And it wasn't like it was, oh, he threw it and Vita Vea is 2 yards. Vita Vea was like 10, 15, I may be exaggerating, but about 10 yards away. Hustles down the line and just drops Jake Ferguson. What a play, man. That guy's crazy. You want to talk about paying monies and trading? Those are the dudes you go do that for. That guy. Let me get him up off you, Tampa. Jake got up not knowing where he was at. I wish I still had my Facebook. A to Z. I wish I still had my Facebook. Back when Vita Vea was, and I want to say this was the LVE draft. Back when Vita Vea was a option. I did the whole draft day thing, right? I wrote on a piece of paper, Vita Vea or else, or whatever it was. Right? You know the saying, Vita Vea or nothing else or something like that. And I took a picture of it and I'm like, that's the guy. I don't care what you got to do, get Vita Vea. And they ended up taking LVE. I think it was that draft. And, the rest is history. Vita Vea is goddamn Hall of Fame type defensive tackle. He's like the modern day. Actually, I think. Can I say it with my chest? I think he's better than Haloti Ngata. He's the modern day version, though. Haloti played in the league where they ran a lot, and Haloti just stay in that middle and do your thing. Haloti was a multi-time All-Pro. I'm probably speaking sideways here, but just talent, man. And what Vita Vea can do at that size, I think he's more talented than Haloti Ngata, man. Am I tripping? Yeah, I always ask y'all because I want y'all to be honest. Am I tripping? Still them boys said, whoa. I'm a huge Haloti Ngata fan, so don't take this as Haloti Ngata slander. Hainsworth? Nah. He's way better than Hainsworth. Is there some Raven fans in here? Coach Evans. Am I tripping? Coach Evans ain't gonna let me. Coach Evans gonna, man, you better get up out of here with that. Appreciate you. Get right. He dropped 5 and said, love your brother, Do-Rag Sky. Keep up the great work. Continue to grind. So proud of you. 2025 will be monumental. I think it will be. And almost dropped some news today. Might drop it tomorrow. Might drop it later. But stay tuned for that, man. Let's wrap to my guy, Mel Hayes. What's good with you, Mel?
Good morning. Good morning, King, to the morning King.
Ooh, it's been a while since I heard that one. What's up with you?
Man, I want to, I don't want to say fight you a little bit on the Mike McCarthy. Or, let me encourage you not to give up on McCarthy.
Hey, I could take some encouragement, brother, because I've given up.
I want to throw one more sort of just kind of nugget into the whole equation of what actually could happen. Because looking at it from Jerry's standpoint, yes, okay, cool. Let's say Jerry does want to bring Mike back.
Sure.
But under what terms does he want to bring Mike back? Are we looking at another 5-year deal? I don't think Jerry's looking at doing a 5-year deal. Is he looking at a 3-year deal?
Yeah, I think 3 to 5. I think 3 to 5.
Okay, so let's say he's looking at let's play it this way. Let's say he's looking at a 3-year deal.
Sure.
Is that something that Mike McCarthy really wants to sign up for? Does Mike McCarthy then say, like, 3 years, this could happen, that could happen? I don't know if this is really the situation where, you know, I really want to kind of return to kind of being everything that, you know, kind of transpired over the last 5 years. Do I want to do this for another 3 years in this situation? I think
so
we
you're
also
saying 3 is too long?
No, I think 3 might be too short for a head coach. I just don't know any head, because for him it's a brand new deal. So does any head coach want to sign up for only 3 years in what he has to do? Or would he look at it as a continuation of kind of what's already going on? I just don't know if Mike wants to come back for that kind of.
I don't think 3 years is that short. I think 3 years is long in this league, without a shadow of a doubt. Plus, it kind of aligns with CeeDee and Lamb and things like that. I think 3 years is perfectly fair, and I don't think Mike will look at that as anything but fair.
Any sort of slight?
Nah, I don't think he looked at it as a slight at all. But I think, like, gosh, I can't believe I'm sounding like Mike McCarthy here. Just like anything, you know, it all depends.
Just like anything.
Just like anything, it depends on leverage, right? If Mike McCarthy, who they're letting this deal run out, is approached by Vegas, is approached by Chicago, is approached by Jacksonville, is approached by whomever the team is going to be looking for a coach, and they say, "Hey, Mike, man, we love how you dealt with the adversity, you dealt with Jerry, and we want to sign you up for a 5-year deal at whatever." Well, then now Mike can go to Jerry and say, "Look, that 3 got to be 5 now. Like, I don't want to move my family. I don't want to uproot and have to do all this other stuff, but hey, I got a 5-year deal over here. I'm 60 years old. You know, my last payday is probably now. So if you're not going to up the 3-year to a 5-year at whatever amount of monies, because coaching monies is guaranteed, then I appreciate it. I will go coach in Jacksonville, and the weather's nice down there, and you know, and I'll go do my thing." So I do think it depends on leverage. If he does not have any teams clamoring for his services, then I 100% I don't think he even thinks twice about a 3-year deal.
You think he'll take something like that?
Yeah, and that's minimum. I think it could be 4 or 5 years. So yeah.
Boy, oh boy, Jesus, 5 boy.
I think.
And look, man, Mike is I give Mike probably a little bit more credit than probably you and Tom as far as being able to create some sustainability here.
See, Bell, don't do me like that, bro. Because, you know, what do I say? What do I say about Mike? I think Mike McCarthy is a great guy to build a program. I think he's done that here.
Yeah.
I have no problem with that.
He's not bad. He's not bad for your program.
My issue is on Sundays, Mike McCarthy does not give me an advantage. And I'm sick.
You literally took the words out of my mouth, bro. You don't get any advantage with Mike. There's no advantage.
No.
There's no strategic advantage. He doesn't outsmart you. And when I say outsmart you, I don't just mean play calling. There's nothing strategically he does throughout the course of the game where you go, man, that was a great decision there by Mike on how he maneuvered this and did that in the third or whatever.
Game management, I think a lot of these coaches struggle with it. But yeah, that's one of the things with Mike too. So I don't get it twisted.
But let's say he didn't call. Let's say he doesn't call plays well, but he did do that part well. He's not a guy.
Right.
There's no advantage on Sundays. I 100% agree with you there. But there's something going on Monday through Saturday to where there is some sustainability to where guys are not giving up, guys are not quitting. And I do want to give the guys credit because they're not also quitting on themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But there's something going on to where there is some sustainability of I don't want to say like a winning program, but it's something. It's not just the worst thing in the world. We ain't Jacksonville. We're not.
No,
Vegas.
No.
It's not that.
Yeah, and you make a good point there because when we I think this is more so diehard fans that tune into these type of conversations, right? If you really listen to the conversation, well, at least me, I know Toxic Tom hates the guy, and he says he's terrible and things like that.
It wouldn't matter what you said.
Right? And I said this to Toxic. Like, I don't think it's that serious when it comes to Mike from that standpoint. I think it's very simple to me. I think as a play caller, as an offensive-minded guy, I don't think he's that guy, pal. I think there's too many, quality coordinators and play callers that I think if you gave the reins to a Dak Prescott with CeeDee Lamb and a Kevontae Turpin and a Brandon Cooks, boy, oh boy, they would make things tough on teams week in, week out. Whereas with Mike, we make things tough on ourselves. And again, last year when the offense did snap, I think it snapped because he said we can't run this offense anymore. So in his words, I gotta let Dak Prescott go and do his thing. And what happened? Second MVP type situation. So I know a lot of people are saying strip Mike of his play calling. I don't think that's happening. I would be stunned if Mike McCarthy returns to the Cowboys under the notion that he cannot call plays.
There's your other encouraging
saying,
thing where you don't get him back.
Mel, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that Jerry won't request it because I've kind of, and I'm waiting to kind of do this visually for you guys, but it has happened many of times over the last 20 years where Jerry Jones has made the executive decision to strip his head coach or play caller of play calling duties. So he may request it, but Mike finna deny that. Mike gonna say, "Hey Jerry, I can go coach over in Vegas. I can go coach in wherever else and call plays." So that is the one caveat. If Jerry says, "I don't want you calling plays," then he's probably gone.
I think it will be gone. The other thing, I think Jerry stripping him of the play calling. Usually Jerry has somebody that he really, really likes that he wants to put in that position. Like when he put Jason Garrett as the offensive coordinator, or like when he put Kellen as the offensive coordinator. Those were two guys that he had some connection to previously that he already really did like. So
who's that guy?
There. I don't.
There's not that guy.
There's not that guy.
There's
not that guy.
There's no Jason Garrett who he obviously had a connection with. There's no Kellen Moore who was on the staff and then who coached or played under Scott Linehan and there's none of that. And that's the other thing, right? Might come back. There is no. It's a staff returning, and I forget who pointed this out, but it's I think it might have been Connor or no, it was Bobby Belt. There was an article that dropped some weeks ago of all the hot and up and coming head coaches or assistant coaches, and not just hot in the terms of Ben Johnson, right? Like that's easy, but some assistants, some positional coaches, quarterbacks coaches, things like that. There were 70-something names. Not one Cowboy assistant coach was on the list. Not one.
I think that's a little unfair to them.
That's telling.
It's a little unfair to them, though.
No. We're not talking about defensive coordinators in that manner. He's 60-something years old. He's proven. These are guys that haven't gotten a shot. or guys
Gotcha.
who may have coached like one time or something. It's mostly those. If you go look at it, it's mostly those type of guys, like super assistants. They talk about the big ones, right? The OCs and DCs that are in head coach conversations. But then there's this long list of like 70 names of just dudes that are under those guys in Dallas. Because think about it, who's it going to be? Schottenheimer already been there, done that. He's not one of those guys. Scott Tolzien is not on that list.
No.
Scott McCarthy, come on, give me a break. It's not even his room no more. He keeps getting bullied by better coaches that come in here. Al Harris is the only guy, and I think Al was listed, but I think it was they were more so talking about offensive guys and guys that were buried deep, right? But there isn't just these dudes littered, offensive line coaches and assistant. Frank Pollock been here forever. He done did this already, right? Like he's not building a tree that you're confident, like, man, we can just move this guy up or this guy's got potential. No, it's going to be Mike or a new guy. That's just what it's going to be. Like outside of Dallas.
Yeah. Last thing, man, I'll let you go. Mike Zimmer. I would love to have Mike Zimmer back, but if they do change head coaches, I'm in favor of letting that new head coach choose his staff and not saying, hey, here's your staff. Because once you start there, where does it stop? So I want Zim back, but I'm also in favor of, if you move head coaches, let Zim interview with this new head coach and say, hey, here's what I did with these guys, and here's the direction we're going in. These guys want me back.
I agree.
But if that new head coach goes, hey, my philosophy is completely different, I don't think it's a fit, I love what you did, but I want to move on, then that has to be the decision I think that you make. But, man, appreciate you letting me get on. Love talking Cowboy football with you, man. Been far too long. Been a rough season, but, man, you've been holding it down for us, man. And you the one consistent thing we can all depend on, man. We appreciate you, bro. Happy New Year.
All right, my guy. Appreciate you. Happy holidays, brother. Happy New Year, all that good stuff. We'll talk in between time like we always do, though, man.
Yes, sir.
Salute. It's our guy, Mel Hayes. Good morning, King to the morning king. That's hard. I might have to do some, memorabilia. Not memorabilia. What's it called? Merchandise. Might have to do that. Yeah, I'm all in favor of if they bring in a new coach, let him do his thing, man. Good or bad, right? If it doesn't work out, then that's how things work. All right, this didn't work out. Let me make a different, let me try to improve. But we can't go down this same rabbit hole. And I should have made a visual, but I'll just talk about it real quick. This has been a perpetual thing, specifically on the offensive side of the ball, when it comes to play caller under this Jerry Jones direction. It has to stop, right? That's why I'm not in favor of Mike McCarthy returning with his play calling duty stripped, because all that does to me is say that nothing is changing. From that, you could say, well, Sky, nothing's changing in general, but from that aspect, right? From let your coach do his thing. If Mike comes back without being able to call play, I don't want him back in general. There's that saying, well, what do you do here? Mike's not giving no rah-rah speeches and motivate. Dudes are playing for Mike because they're playing for his job. You know what I'm saying? Ain't nobody talk about playing for Mike last year and the year before. And that's not a knock on him, because he's a player's coach. People genuinely like Mike McCarthy. He's genuinely a good guy. But they're not playing for Mike because it's like, man, this is my guy. I'm going in a foxhole with him. He done. I wasn't saying that the previous years. They saying that because that man's job is on the line, and they don't want to see this guy go get fired or not extended or be out here without a job, man. They got legitimate connections with this dude on a human standpoint. His family and all this stuff. Did you hear him say I'm playing for him last year? In 21, in 22, No. He's not that type of coach. So if I'm going to give me a walk around head coach, it better be a motivating mother. You know what I mean? It better be. I actually don't have a problem with my offensive. If I have an offensive head coach, him being the play caller. I know that is a very huge topic among the fan base. And I don't know that there's a right or wrong answer. But I do prefer my offensive head coach to call the plays. Yeah, I do prefer that. And you can say, well, Sky is distracted and things like that. That's fair. Sure. I mean, I can't argue with you that he may be distracted on what's going on in the game to do X, Y, Z. But I think it's fair enough to look around the league and see that there's a lot of success with that too. You know, a lot of success with it. But I'm not going to throw hands with you if you want your offensive head coach to be a walk around guy. Let me tell you something right now. If I'm hiring Ben Johnson, I ain't hiring Ben Johnson to walk around the sidelines. No. Because there has to be something to that offensive of minded guy like a Ben Johnson, right? Having a feel for a game. If he hands the reins off to some obscure assistant and he's just sitting there with the play sheet and just, that guy may not have the same thought process in how they want to dial this thing up. So I'm all for it unless my walk around head coach is a defensive guy or a motivator. You know, if I'm going to get me a walk around head coach, get me a motivating mother, and then go get one of those young buck or ain't got to be young. There's some veteran guys in this game that are really good play callers and have really good schemes. Give me one of them. Like, you know, a lot of people might not like this name, but man, like Doug Peterson as a play caller, I'd be intrigued. Yeah, I'd be intrigued. As a play caller, as a head coach, I've been to sure, but as a play caller, I'd be intrigued. I'm saying a very obscure name. There are many more offensive coordinators I want, but a guy that's probably getting fired or what have you, I'd be interested. 210, what it is, what it do?
What's good with you, Sky?
What's up?
Man, they keep winning. I keep getting more sick of watching them, bro. I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm ready for Mike McCarthy to go. Every time they win, it just feels like Jay gonna extend them. Like you said earlier, I think he's dragging it out just to extend them.
Yeah, I think
but
so.
It's getting sickening because I feel like you should bring only Zimmer back and Al Harris if he wants to come back. Because you remember when Al Harris said he would follow DQ everywhere. So I don't even know if he want to come back after this year. But the way it's looking, they're gonna try to extend Mike. But he might be a cool players coach. That's cool or whatever. But being a players coach hasn't gotten the Cowboys nowhere since he got hired. And then on top of that, I'm sick and tired of hearing, well, we're unprepared for the final week of practice. We didn't do much changing. Players were kind of scared. I'm like, these are grown men. Why are players scared? And I just think it's time for Mike McCarthy to go, in my opinion, and bring in somebody else, just somebody new. Watching the Lions game yesterday, got Detroit running fake fumbles, touchdowns. I was sick. I was like, now that's a team right there. They don't have Montgomery. They riddle with injuries just like the Cowboys. And so I'm just like, wow, that's a team.
Yeah,
but
I think now again, we're speaking as if we're going to hire a different guy. I definitely think if they were to hire a different guy, you got to get a guy in here that is so good X's and O's wise that they can overcome not being an aggressive organization. You know what I mean? Like a guy that can make a Kevontae Turpin a legitimate threat weekly. You know what I'm saying? That can turn Brandon Cooks and whomever, Tolbert, whomever, into a legitimate threat weekly, oppo of your big guys and the Jake Fergusons and CeeDee Lambs and Dak Prescotts and whoever maybe the running back may be. But I think that's extremely important because this organization has shown that they won't, be aggressive in that sense. And shit, when it comes to playmakers, they haven't even taken a skill position above the third round since CeeDee Lamb. Hopefully that changes this year. But so you're going to need a guy that has some creativity in his bones, and it's not forced. You know what I mean? It's not like, all right, here's a shift, here's a motion, here's a a pony play. Here's, you know what I mean? Because that's what it is with Mike. That's not Mike's game. You know, Mike is traditional West Coast guy that throws in some sprinkles of some modern things. Get a modern guy that this is in their DNA, so that when you're preparing for this guy, you got to prepare for so many different looks and things out of that same look. And that's kind of what the trend is right now in the NFL.
No, I agree with you, bro. Because yesterday watching the game, like you said earlier in the show, he did start out hot, doing Brendan Cross on a deep cross. I was like, okay, that's different. I'm used to seeing him stop and turn around.
There was a lot of shifts in that game yesterday. I thought the first half was a really good called game for Mike, as we talked about earlier. Second half was a different story, and I know Lamb went down, so that played a lot into it. But he went down, and it looked extremely stale. You don't have to be stale because he went down. You know what I mean? You can still do some things to make things easier on you offensively.
And that's the issue with Mike. He's too inconsistent. Every year in and year out, when you start off slow, okay, cool or whatever. It's not until his back is against the wall, he's like, okay, I gotta do something. And that's the problem. Every single year. And I just feel like they need to move on because he hasn't proved nothing. Okay, we were 12-5. That's huge. And then that's huge. 12-5, back-to-back years. Cool. But we get to the playoffs, players are not prepared. You're doing the same. You revert back to the same way you went in the first week. Like, why are you? It's like you playing scared. And then on top of that, I don't even know if the Cowboys are going to draft a receiver this draft with the first-round pick because we're a top 15 now, so Luther Burden's out of the question. And you might get old boy from Ohio State.
Might not be. Don't. Look, CeeDee Lamb was out the question.
That's true. He was out the question.
He might not be, man. Right. Like, and I know I hate to be that guy. Oh, CeeDee Lamb, but it happens. It absolutely happens. And if you do finish 14, 13, 12, 11, well, go up and get his ass. I'm not hearing that, bro.
Teams suck at drafting. You right, my fault. You right. But I'm just saying, it's just I want to see them get another guy, but they gave away that pick for Mingo. And so, Jerry might say, well, we got our 2024.
That's fair too. So yeah,
that's the issue that I'm coming across.
And all jokes aside, get ready for probably Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, he's coming off of ACL. They love injured players.
That could be a thing. Yeah.
And then jersey sales are gonna go crazy to Diggs brothers. Jerry's gonna love that from a business standpoint. It's just, me personally, I'm just ready to move on from Mike because even when I watch games now, it's like I know they're not going to do nothing exciting. It took you this long to get Rico involved, and I'm just like, if Jerry has any more brain cells left, he knows to move on from Mike and just clean house. In my opinion, that's how I view. But I ain't trying to hold you too long, Scott. Appreciate you, man. Happy holidays.
Thank you, brother. Happy holidays to you as well, man. Yeah, my main gripe is when it comes to the end of the season and playoffs. I don't question Mike with this team healthy. I said it, right? They're about to be at the very least 7-10, which, given the situation, is not a terrible situation. I've said it many a times. I said it at the start of this year when everybody's predicting records. I'm like, oh, this team is healthy. This is a double-digit win team, and they're a playoff contending team. I'm not worried about that. What I want to see is how are we playing heading into the playoffs? That is usually an indicator of how they will perform or do. And then when they get into the playoffs, do we become a balanced team? Those are my two things. Then shit just went haywire when it came to the injuries. I could have even dealt with 3 and 5 if guys were sticking around because I've seen them literally do this a couple seasons ago. They started off, 3 and 4 or whatever it was, 3 and 3. Things didn't look great. Got into the bye week, and they said, all right, we're scrapping this, and your dudes play like dudes, and they went off. But when you looked at how they played going into it, the breadcrumbs were there, and you in the back of your head was like, ooh. But now we at the crib. We got we're undefeated at the crib. Here we go, offense. We'll get through this. But then those things that really derailed you against those top teams, they not only showed their face, they showed their face with their chest out. So it's not about, for me, it's not about Mike being able to, especially when his team is healthy, put together a double-digit win squad, man, and fight. I said this before the other week, Mike has shown when he's dealt with injuries, this team will still fight. This team will still compete. You know what I mean? It's not about that for me. Again, we're not the Buck. I'm sorry, we're not the Bang. We're not the Jags. We're not the Browns. We're not the Cardinals. We're not the Seahawks. That don't move me. That don't move me enough. Let me say that. Had this been year 1, 2 of Mike McCarthy, different story, man. Year 5. That don't move me. We're the Dallas freaking Cowboys. Our standards as fans should not budge. Don't let them budge. Don't get caught up in the kumbaya. That the players totally understand. They the ones out there. I get that, you know? Don't be mad at these dudes for celebrating, you know, winning at the end of the season right now. You heard what J. Lou said, man. We gonna fight. I don't give a damn. I'm not thinking about no pick. I'm not thinking about tank. I'm not thinking about we out here playing for our brotherhood, our families, our coach, etc. Totally get that, and that is fair, y'all. That's straight up. As a fan, my standards aren't, we are fighting through adversity. We won 12 games with a you know what I mean, with our Q and whatnot, and get to the playoffs. So that's not my standard. So I want to try a different approach to move forward once you get to the playoffs. That's really where I'm looking at. With all due respect to Mike, I hope Mike gets another opportunity somewhere. Just hope it's not here is all. But if it is, and I think it will be, damn it. All right. Let's strap up and let's figure out how we can help out Mike. That's all I can do. Who is this West? Who is We Still Rock 5 Rings? Is this a Cowboy fan? Oh, he's just trolling. Okay. I won't acknowledge. This is why fools with the Bomb Squad.
Bomb Squad!
That's why fools with the Bomb Squad. Y'all gonna police the chat. Y'all gonna police the chat. Now let's get back to the supers. We had a couple come in as I was talking. And kind of got sidetracked when I was talking about the play calling situation when it comes to the Cowboys always putting their hands in it. Let me just quickly go down what I meant. I gave you the gist of what I was talking about, but the specifics. Jerry Jones is habitually line stepped when it's come to this, right? Hiring Jason Garrett before Wade Phillips, number one, right? Then Jason Garrett gets a head coaching job. He calls the plays for a few years. Then he pulls rug on JG and says, nah, you're not going to be the play caller. We're giving that to Bill Callahan. Bill Callahan was oh man, this is awesome. I'm excited to call plays. Man, we're doing great. Call the plays. The next year they like, nah. You should not call the plays. Scott Linehan is calling plays. Bill was like, what? All right, then let me go. No. We'll let your contract run out. Ever since Bill Callahan's like, you, Jerry. All right, bam. Scott Linehan, play caller. Great to start off, right? Then he doesn't progress with the league and he just kind of looks like he's stuck in a stone age and see ya, he gone, right? JG goes to Jerry, hey man, since you're not extending me, I would love to call plays here. The head coach, the head freaking coach has to ask this question, by the way. Jerry said, no, we're going to give it to this green guy over here named Kellen Moore. So Kellen Moore gets it, starts off hot. Then he gets weird and stale. And JG, one more time. Come on, man. Let me go out on the sword. Nah. Kellen. All right. So Kellen calls the plays. JG is gone. Mike McCarthy comes in. Oh, no, you can't call plays either. This is going to Kellen Moore. All right. Bet. Kellen Moore calls plays for 3 seasons. whatever it was, 2 seasons, 2020, 21, 22, 3 seasons. And Mike said, "No, I can't do this, man. Can't do this. We don't see eye to eye. We have different, whether Kellen's better or not, doesn't matter. That can't keep work. They can't work. So mutually part ways. Seems like the coach won this one. You know what I mean? So if Mike is gone, you don't want to see this cycle repeat of where Jerry Jones is making the executive decision on who calls plays. That's why I'm all for my head coach making that decision. I don't want to see the Cowboys go right down that same line. That's why a lot of people saying, well, I'd bring Mike back if he's not calling plays. I don't want that. Because honestly, that might exasperate the worst situation, which is that your front office continues to stick their hands in the cookie jar. If Mike gonna come back on his merit. Come back on. All right, and look, I'm not a fan, but I'd much rather him come back and say, damn it, let me figure this thing out. Because it damn sure seemed like he was on some, here, Kellen, do your thing. And just sat back and let things happen. You know? If you just sitting back and letting shit happen, then what are you doing? Oh, I don't like option routes. Then damn it, get rid of him. You the head coach. You know, when I call plays, man, I had play sheets for Zeke, for Tony, and that's what I would do. Then do that. Office Space. Isn't that the movie? What do you do here? You can't call plays, Mike. What do you do here? Get him out of here. I digress. Wrap up these supers. Shouts out to Glenn. He dropped 5 in the super chat. He said, I'm out on McCarthy. I need a clever run scheme with misdirection that matches my passing game. McCarthy typically outsources his offense to his quarterback. Very true. Oh, that kind of goes hand in hand, Glenn, to what Still Them Boys is saying, which I talked about this on Twitter. We need a head coach that will establish an identity. Yes. There was this talk about, you know, is there something to running under center with Dak and running under center without Dak and whatever, where the numbers show that they run under center with Dak too. And I said the real issue has nothing to do with that. It's when it comes to the run game, to me, it is way more about philosophy or identity, scheme, and blocking. But number one, philosophy and identity. You will never see a Shanahan, LaFleur, Ben Johnson offense, no matter who the hell was under center, have those type of discussions because that is their identity. Not necessarily running, but the running being a part of what they do, being a part of their identity, of their scheme. Where the Cowboys run game, and this is not me just saying it, this is coach saying it. Oh, we just got to hit a number. I swear to God. Find me the clip of Mike McCarthy talking about getting into the nitty gritty about run scheme. Find it. I'll show you 6 or 7 clips of him talking about, man, we just got to get to 30 carries. We got to run the ball more. We got to hit our number. I'm not joking. It's all he cares about is the number. He doesn't care about the how. For God's sake, he hired an 87-year-old offensive line coach. So Still Them Boys, I 100% agree. You need somebody that's going to have a very stern identity. There's no identity in Dallas, man. Or in Green Bay at the time, it was 12 save us, it's 4 save us. Y'all fighting this guy in the chat? Boy, I tell you, social media turned into a strength. So you calling y'all CeeDee Lamb lover boys? Is that what? God, Lord. Is that the new term? You know, I think the other term was What do y'all call the Dak fans? What do y'all call them? Dak Riders or something? And now we got CeeDee Lamb lover boy. Boy, this fan base so toxic, man. It's toxic. Nah, I'm good, man. I'm good. DK, I like DK, but why would I trade arguably a top, not even arguably, a top 3 wide receiver last year, arguably the best wide receiver in the game? Why would I do that? CeeDee Lamb is one of the most versatile dudes in the league. Quarterback proof. I look around with. Ain't you a Cowboy fan? Jermaine dropped 2. Appreciate you, Jermaine. Just
Super chat.
Supporting the channel. Get right or get left, drop 5.
Super chat.
He said, love you, brother. Do-Rag Sky. Keep up the great work. Oh, I think I read this one. Continue to grind. So proud of you. 2025 will be my medal. Shouts out to you. Versus bad teams. Don't. I was about to wrap the show up, but my guy has 1,700 yards last year. That wasn't just against bad teams, but should I do it? Yeah, bro, die hard, but I'm sick of drop balls from my number 1. All receivers drop passes. Call in. Come on, man. I ain't doing this through the. Come in here. Let's talk. Let's talk a little bit, man. Let's talk. Let's have a conversation because you so sick of them. How we sick of one of the best wide receivers in the National Football League? Let's have a conversation. Come on. 351-999-3787. I promise you, and they'll tell you this. I've given Dak haters the floor. I've given Jerry Jones bootlickers the floor. That might have been hard. I'm sorry. Cape, put on a cape, guys. For I've given the front office people the floor. These are people I disagree with, and I've given them the floor. I'm not going to fight you. I mean, I'm probably going to fight you, but I'm going to let you talk. Come on, then, man. 351-999-3787. I need to talk to you. Mm-hmm. Come on in. In the meantime, in between time, appreciate you guys coming through this morning, as usual, as we discuss the recap of this game. I know I probably shouldn't give those the floor. I know, y'all. I know. But my mantra's always been to let everybody express themselves, even if I disagree. You know? Special K said, bro, I just hopped on. I know he ain't talking about CD. Special K, yeah, he over CD. He said CD ain't shit, and let's trade him for Terry McLaurin and DK Metcalf. Oh, he left. Man. Hey, look, man, I get it. No, he dropped some passes this year, whatnot, a lot of passes, and it happens, but that doesn't diminish who he is. He's an all-pro wide receiver. Like receivers drop passes. Like somebody said, I watched Jamar Chase drop a couple passes against us the other week. You know? I've watched DK drop passes. I've watched Mike Evans drop passes. I've watched these guys drop passes, man. It's football, big dog. He gone? All right, well. At least my man from, I forget Q, was it Q? At least he called in the next day. You know what I mean? I'll give him that. Maybe this guy will call in and explain his hatred for CeeDee Lamb. With that said, I'm going to go ahead, get up out of here, Cowboys Nation. What? He came back? Nah, he gone. He gone. Maybe we'll talk to him tomorrow, man. Lee said I had a youngin' in the barbershop tell me that CD was a bad receiver and George Pickens is the best. But you know what, Lee? To be fair, that's barbershop talk. Hey, Lee. And not just Lee, everybody that go to a barbershop. And I said this to you guys. Put the music back on. We ain't going nowhere. I said this to you guys before. Because I now do this for a living, and I've done this more intently and with a bigger microscope, per se, on the team. There's times where I'm out in the wild. Look, I don't feel like having these low-hanging fruit elementary conversations. I don't. So I just listen. And I ain't lost. So nobody know who I am. You know what I'm saying? Nobody know. I put the hood on. Yeah, like a hat. You don't know who I am. And I listen to these conversations. I'm like, oh, Lord. Bite your tongue, Sky. Bite your tongue, bite your tongue, bite your tongue. Well, I'm just saying, you know. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sure. Yep. Barbershop, that's the number one place where that stuff happens. Even before I did this, you know, for a living, I go into barbershops and I'm like, what? Excuse me? You know what? Go ahead. You got it, bro. Occasionally I say something, you know, and have a little fun with it. But boy, they be saying some crazy things in them barbershops. Crazy things. Anyway, now I'm turning the music off and get up out of here and press this button.
Push the goddamn button.
Push the goddamn button.
I do, Twang. I just sit back and let them have their fun, man. Let them have their fun. Come on back tomorrow, y'all. We are going to jump into the film room and take a look at some of my... This was a passing game, so some of my favorite pass plays in this game, all of the first half. And whatever news drops later on today. I'll see y'all tomorrow. We out here. Peace. Schedule-wise, just an update. Wasn't sure if I was going to be on tomorrow, but I do want to talk a little film. And obviously off Christmas and the next day, then I'll be back Friday. Pretty sure that's how it's going to go. So, if I don't see you, Merry Christmas and a happy holidays to you. If I do see you, you're just a cowboy degenerate like myself.